The Holy Gospel according to John, the 14th chapter. Jesus continues speaking to his disciples. If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him because he abides with you, and he will be in you. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. On that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me. And those who love me will be loved by my Father, and I will love them and reveal myself to them. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
You may be seated. I told the folks this morning that at the early service that this is a dangerous day. Because as I sit in the pew and I listen to these readings being read, I find myself thinking, ooh, that's a good one to preach on. Ooh, that one's a good one to preach on. But I'm going to restrain myself. We'll stick to one. This is a time of year when, well, it's filled with transitions. And there are all kinds of ways that people are getting ready for new things. In this part of the country, particularly the most obvious examples are in the planting of crops. A new growing season is out there. And as the planting approaches and as it progresses, we caution one another to be careful. Big machinery, fatigue, people in a hurry, all can bring a pretty dangerous environment. And so as this past week progressed and the rains settled in, and there was talk of washout and cool weather that would slow the growth of the new plantings, there started to be that talk already of the possibility to need to replant, to start over. Whenever folks enter a time like this, when new things are developing, there's a sense of excitement. Sometimes that excitement is an energy that calls us into the hope and the promise and the possibilities of all that are to come. And sometimes that excitement is more the anxiety of the unknown. It is a time in between that challenges people to stay true to the course, that challenges them to keep clear about where they are headed and what they are doing, that challenges people to pay attention to the details. Somehow in the midst of it all is a call to remain nimble. Sometimes when the plans get too fixed, when things get too rigid, too absolute, those plans and the ones who make them can become brittle. And when the plans become inflexible, then something often breaks. Somehow it seems absolutely appropriate then that at this time of year, the church hears Jesus making big promises to the disciples. They too are entering into a time of new things, of great change. They don't really know it, but we do. We know the story. And these promises are being made in a time and to a community that, well, they will watch their leader be betrayed. They will watch their leader be tortured. They will watch their leader be put up onto a cross to die. And they will see the resurrection to new life. Jesus has told them as much. He has explained it, but frankly, like many people, many of us, they just have a hard time believing it, hearing it, trusting it. When I was younger, perhaps about to graduate from high school, my parents and my teachers and the people around me tried to tell me things, give me guidance. Now, I didn't always listen very well. Sometimes I even laughed at them. Sometimes I thought I was smarter than they were. Oh, that'll never happen to me. But you see, even on that day when I was going through the drive-thru of the Dairy Queen and Carl Fogel, who was the owner of the Dairy Queen, handed me my drink and said, "So, David, as you're heading off to college, what are you going to do? Are you going to be a pastor like your father?" Now, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, but I was pretty clear that I was not going to be a pastor. See how that worked out. I thought I was smarter than that. And here I am, back to Jesus. Take just a moment and consider what it would be like to hear your leader, the one in whom you have put all your trust, tell you that he will be betrayed, that he will be killed, and that he will be raised to new life. But that is not all that he has told these disciples in this time. He tells you that he wants you to love one another. Indeed, act in ways that bring God's love and justice to bear in the world. More than that, you have watched him do some pretty amazing things. And now he tells you that whenever you believe in him, you will do the same things, even greater things than these. Yes, you. When you believe, whenever you trust in Jesus, you are empowered to bring God's love, God's healing presence, God's reconciliation, God's grace to bear in the world. Now that's pretty clear that those disciples probably found that to be a daunting promise. I'm sure that that is why Jesus makes the promises that he does today. You see, all of that is the background that brings us to what Jesus says in this moment when he says, "Whenever you love me, you will keep my commandments." Yeah, I know in the translation we read it said, "if you love me," but there are fields of meaning for translation. And that word that gets translated as "if" can also be translated as "whenever" or even "because." It assumes it to be true that you love Jesus already, that the disciples love them. And what are the commandments that Jesus has given to his disciples? Jesus has told his disciples, told you and me, love one another as he has loved us, as he has loved them, as he has loved you. That love is a love that not only announces forgiveness and reconciliation and new life, it is a love that enacts it. It is a love that is grounded in serving one another, really serving one another. You'll recall that this whole teaching moment, it's a long teaching moment, started with Jesus taking off his outer robe, wrapping a towel around himself, and kneeling, taking the role of a slave and washing the feet of his disciples. When members of the church make affirmation of their baptism, indeed, even as parents bring an infant forward to be baptized, there are promises that are made, and those promises push towards the reality that we commit ourselves to serve all people following the example of Jesus Christ. We commit ourselves to work for justice and peace in all the earth. For a 1-month-old, that's not quite a commitment he's ready to make. So we make it on his behalf until he can claim those promises for himself. But that isn't the promise, is it? The promise is that Jesus, even as his disciples are entering into this scary time, into this exciting time, into this new time when everything is going to change, Jesus says, I will send an advocate, the Spirit of truth, to be with you. Jesus says, I will not orphan you. I will not leave you alone. You will have what you need. Jesus tells his disciples that as they enter this new time, this new season, he loves them. His Father loves them. That love is so big that they will be able to live into all that he has commanded them. Indeed, he will not abandon them. So now today, for those who were here earlier who are graduating, indeed for any of us who are entering into a new season in our lives, you too are entering a time of great expectations and hope.